In the picturesque town of Cedar Creek, Maine, life was defined by perfection. Every lawn was manicured to exactly 2.5 inches, and every mailbox followed a strict color code enforced by the local Homeowners Association, HOA. It was a community built on rules, order, and silence. But beneath the pristine white picket fences, an ancient darkness was waking up. The terror began on a Tuesday morning when Mr. Thompson, a retired veteran, found his backyard gate wide open. His loyal Rottweiler, Max, was gone. For 3 days, the neighborhood searched the dense Maine woods surrounding the town, but found nothing. On the 4th day, Max was found, not by the woods, but lying directly in the center of the HOA president's driveway. A heavy, antique wooden arrow was driven through his chest. It wasn't a modern hunting arrow. It looked like a relic from 2 centuries ago. Panic spread like wildfire. The residents began noticing a strange, sickly green glow emanating from the windows of the Blackwood estate, a derelict mansion on the edge of the cul-de-sac that had been empty for decades. Legend whispered that the family who built it had practiced dark rituals to protect their land from outsiders, but the HOA had always dismissed these stories as local folklore. As the sun dipped behind the pines, an emergency HOA meeting was called at the community hall. The atmosphere was thick with dread. Mrs. Henderson, a woman known for her cheerful garden parties, sat in the front row, trembling. Her husband gripped her hand, his face pale as a ghost. Halfway through the meeting, Mrs. Henderson let out a blood-curdling scream. She looked down to see dark, crimson handprints appearing on her arms, as if an invisible, bloody hand was grabbing her. Standing in the back of the room was Sarah, a young investigative journalist who had recently moved to Maine. Unlike the others, she wasn't paralyzed by fear. She was fueled by a need for the truth. While the residents argued about security cameras and police patrols, Sarah noticed something in the HOA's oldest record books lying on the podium. The dates of every major disappearance in Cedar Creek's history matched a specific cycle. Every 50 years, the land demanded a cleansing. Armed with only a high-powered flashlight, Sarah headed toward the Blackwood estate. Inside, the air was cold enough to see her breath. The walls were lined with portraits of the town's founders, their eyes appearing to follow her every move. In the basement, she found a hidden chamber filled with hundreds of the same antique arrows that had killed Max. It wasn't just a house. It was a hunting lodge for something not entirely human. Back at the community hall, the lights flickered and died. A heavy silence fell over the room, broken only by the sound of scratching on the walls. Suddenly, the double doors burst open. A freezing wind swept through, carrying the scent of pine and decay. In the doorway stood a tall, shadow-like figure, the suburban slayer. It wore tattered buckskin and carried a bow made of human bone. Beside it stood the spectral, glowing form of Max the Rottweiler, his eyes burning with a vengeful light. The slayer wasn't there for the dogs. He was there for the people who had built their perfect world on his tribe's sacred ground. Mrs. Henderson's husband was the first to disappear into the shadows, followed by the HOA president. Sarah arrived back just in time to see the slayer vanish into the Maine woods, leaving behind a single antique arrow embedded in the meeting room floor. The next morning, the sun rose over Cedar Creek just like any other day. The lawns were still green, and the houses were still white. But the town was quieter. Far too quiet. The residents now knew that their rules didn't matter. The land had its own laws, and the suburban slayer was still out there, waiting for the next person to step out of line.